Welcome to today's Wellness Watch. Today's episode comes from Season 1 of Wellness Watch, which was originally recorded on our live learning platform, Learn It Live. If you have any questions, be sure to just put them into the comments below. Please also like our video and subscribe for more information on herbal medicine, health, and wellness. I hope you enjoy today's episode on eating on the go. Hello everyone, and welcome to Wellness Watch with the Dancing Herbalist. This is our final session for our Season 1 of Wellness Watch. How are you doing today, Annabelle?
Great, thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm so glad. This is going to be a great topic. Today we're talking about eating on the go. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jillian Carnick. I run the Dancing Herbalist. I have a Master of Science degree in herbal medicine. I am also a nutritionist, a certified personal trainer, and exercises medicine professional through the American College of Sports Medicine. My personal focus is on topical herbal products and using them for joint and muscle pain, skin sensitivities, and injuries. I focus a lot with my clients on wellness-related practices. I do also offer consultation services if you're looking for more personalized support. Annabelle?
Hi, my name's Annabelle Shiver. I am the author of the Conscious Canary Chronicles, which is basically a journal of my journey to wellness after pharmaceutical injury, and a lot about what I do with a plant-based raw food diet. And I'm a home herbalist and health advocate.
I'm always glad that we can get together to talk about all these different things, Annabelle. Now, if you are looking for more products or services from the Dancing Herbalist, we do have a variety of free options for you. We do have a free newsletter and blogs that's right through our website at thedancingherbalist.com. If you want to learn more about herbs and our classes, herbal products, our programs, that's the best way to do it, is to go over to thedancingherbalist.com. That's also where you can buy topical products from the Dancing Herbalist. And now that you have found Learn It Live for our Season 1, you can find our other classes that we have on Learn It Live as well. There are some free and paid classes here, so you can look around and see the different things we have to have available on herbal medicine, materia medica, nutrition, plant identification, and more. But if you do have any questions for us after these live sessions, feel free to join our Facebook group, which is called the Dancing Herbalists Herbies. You can see on the PowerPoint for this session the Facebook link, but you can also just search that in the search bar if you want to find it a little bit easier. But this is really the best place to go if you have any quick questions for any of our herbalists, or if you just want to kind of catch up with some other people who are also interested in herbs and wellness and that sort of thing, having those in their life. So again, this is our last session for Season 1, 2019 in June. We will be putting all of our Season 1 recordings onto YouTube. So you can look forward to seeing that over the next few months. It'll be a little easier to find them for you between live sessions. And we are intending to put Season 2 directly onto YouTube, so you can start seeing those towards the end of July or the beginning of August as we start moving forward on those. But if you do have any topics that you want to see, be sure to send us a message with those, or just let us know in the comments during the live session. And today, Annabelle, eating on the go.
Yeah, it's a great topic. Great topic for us, and especially this time of year, it's on the go.
Yes. I mean, it's summer's right here. It's getting bright. We want to go travel and do all the fun things. And that means we might not always have the food choices we want available to us quick and easily.
Yeah, definitely. And, a lot of times when we get really busy, it's kind of hard to plan.
Exactly.
So I thought it was interesting because I was coming in the door quickly this morning, messaging you saying, I just walked in the door and I know you're traveling. So I was thinking, wow, this is a perfect topic, and trying to find something, and particularly while you're on the road, is quite difficult if you're trying to look for clean, whole foods. So I'm sure you experience that quite a bit.
Yeah, and I mean, I do a lot of traveling. One of the main things that I try to focus on is foods that also don't need to be refrigerated.
Right.
Um,
Yes.
and so that generally means that when I'm looking to get more proteins, that I'm getting less animal proteins and more vegetable proteins. Now, you are vegan and you don't have animal proteins, but I do still include animal proteins in my diet. And I will consider getting things like beef jerky and things like that for travel. But really, when I'm traveling, nuts and seeds and um, products that are made with like peas or beans are really what I focus my getting all my proteins from. Because if I don't have access to a restaurant or a grocery store where I can get something fresh, having those dried can be really easy um, and quick. So one snack thing I'm just thinking of right now are all these dried pea products that are all these different flavors and things. They can be great in protein, quick to eat, and nice and flavorful because usually they have a lot of different kinds of herbal flavorings in them.
Yeah, I've seen those because even though, I have a very specialized diet these days, my family, likes to have some of these items. And I know you don't do this, but one that really is popular around here is they have these little dried seaweed packages.
Yes, I think seaweed is great. It's not necessarily a protein source, but it is definitely an excellent source of salts and micro minerals. And a lot of people really like them. And I mean, the thing to do in Asia is to just have rice and seaweed, and you just wrap them up together, and then you got a whole meal right there because you have the nice flavors of the seaweed, and you can even get like flavored seaweed strips. Um, so it's really quick and easy because at least through Asia, rice is available readily just about everywhere.
Right.
Um, so it's a great quick meal on the go if that's something you're doing. And if you are like home in the morning, for instance, and you have a busy day and you don't know when you're going to get back, you can just cook rice in the morning or cook rice even overnight in a rice cooker and have that available for you during the day.
Right. I used to actually do that. And sometimes when I would go try to do a little bit of nature walking, I would
Mhm,
take the rice that way. And, it was something that was really satiating and dense.
mhm,
And so I think one of the hard things for me on the go is because I eat a lot of fruit, and a lot of the fruit I eat has a lot of water content to it.
mhm.
So it doesn't necessarily get me nice and full. And sometimes I've gotten much better with it now, but eating on the go, sometimes I would find that I just wouldn't get enough to actually feel full.
Mm.
Uh, and then the aspect of, sort of like rushing through my meal. And I would find that, at least for me, that it would make it more difficult for me to eat the way I was needing to be eating, because I would just kind of get flustered and be like, okay, well, whatever.
Yeah, because it takes time to eat those
It
foods. It's
does.
harder to get them fast. Um, Now, on that, do you ever do dried fruits?
I do.
Do you find those
Um,
to be more sustainable for you?
I do, absolutely. I love dried fruit, and so when I'm on the go, I kind of try to think about how long I'm going to be going and what
Mhm.
time of the day it is. If it's the later part of the day, I'm not really trying to look for a really big meal to sort of carry me through.
Yep.
But when I really need something to carry me through, my go-to is making smoothies, and I use lots of dried fruit and bananas, and that gets me nice and full for many hours. Or I do occasionally do like you do with the seeds, and I find sometimes just a small, tiny little bowl of hemp seed, you
Mm-hmm.
know, um, really will just fill me up for hours. So I really like
Yeah.
seeds for that purpose.
What and it all fits right along that I really like to bring fruit and nut butters with me. I think that's really filling, but also not too heavy because of the fruit. And I could also imagine that you could do very similar and just dip your fruit right into hemp seed, because that to me sounds pretty delicious too.
Yeah, yeah, it does. Yeah,
Because they
it's
also
really
now make like dehydrated peanut butter, so it's just peanut powder basically. So like that same kind of thing. And you could even make a nut and seed grain, like ground up nuts and seeds as like a topping, almost like a gamasio, which is a sesame seed that's ground
mhm.
up like that.
The other thing that I don't do now, but eventually I will when I,
Mhm.
get grains back in that I found really helped me was oats.
Yes, I think oats can be great.
Yeah, and then if you, we went to a place one time and I remember having this, this like they made a homemade sort of like a granola bar and it was made with oats and flaxseed and chia seed and that right there and with a little bit of dried fruit,
Yeah.
that's a perfect that was a perfect meal for me, and
I
also
know.
a lot of times when we're traveling, might not have a lot of space, or if we're on a public transit and we can't really carry a lot at one time.
Hmm. Yeah, with oats in particular, overnight oats is something that's super easy, especially if you're traveling and you don't have a cooking method. I like to take a pint jar and put like a half a cup of oats in, some almond milk, when it's in season, some like pureed pumpkin and some spices and things like that. And you just let that sit for like 10 hours and then it's completely edible. You don't have to do anything else to it. You don't have to do cooking or anything. If you have a blender, you can blend it up into a smoothie, but like you can really make a delicious oat dish without cooking at all. And it's really filling. It's because it has protein, it has that grain in it, and you can definitely add dried fruits and things like that to it, no problem. And it's a really full meal without having to cook, and it's just completely portable.
That sounds amazing. I've seen overnight oats, and I definitely want to try it when I get back into a little
Great.
more grains. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
love
So
that. I mean, when you have a busy day the next day and you're going to be on the go, I find that what sets me up to succeed is trying to kind of have some of my stuff together
mhm.
or going for the next day. So I don't end up overwhelmed. And I really have been making a point of and feel that it's important to not get overwhelmed by food and eating, because
Yeah.
then it becomes very stressful. And you're already kind of at an elevated level of stress on the body when you're on the go.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Now, if anybody is interested, I am adding the link to the shake recipe, the pumpkin spice
Mhm.
breakfast shake, oat shake. Um, because it's really delicious. But yeah, having stuff prepared ahead of time is really necessary. Um, and I like to always have, even if I'm think I'm going to have access to like a place to eat or if I'm going to get home in time, to always have something around me, whether that just be like a granola bar or an apple or just something available to me. Because you never know when you're going to get stuck in behind a car accident for 4 hours on the highway.
Oh, you really make a good point. In fact, I went through this recently when we had gone out for a picnic and dancing.
Hmm.
And I, on the way back, was in traffic, stopped for 2.5 hours. Fortunately, we had eaten very well
Yeah.
during that afternoon, and I was pretty full. But I remembered that I had this rule because um, there's not many places I can really stop and get anything anyway. And so I found that a lot of times I would think I was going to be home and something would come up, or say someone wanted to stay somewhere longer. And I would sort of run out of things to eat. So I started making a point of packing what I knew I was going to need, and then just one little thing extra in case I needed something to sort of tide me over. I didn't do it on that day, and it definitely, I was thinking that could put me in a literal jam. So
Yeah.
that's a really good point. You know, when we're on the go or just in life in general, we never know what's going to happen, you know. And my dad, growing up, used to always say this one saying that I hated as a kid, but now that I'm older, I really appreciate his wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
But he would say prior proper planning prevents poor performance. And so I always try to keep in mind that the day is going to unfold in ways I'm not sure how it's going to go. I hear you over there, Jillian.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we know a lot of stuff that we can take with us, and I want to keep talking about that. But one thing I've struggled with on the go, and I don't know how you manage this. I mean, one of the topics that we talked about was mindful eating. And I do like to try to really, you know, I've changed a lot of habits. Like I don't eat standing up while I'm doing other stuff. You know, I try to not make eating a stressful event. And I find when I'm on the go, I kind of feel stressed about eating. So, and I don't do my typical, you know, mindfulness setting or meditation. And so that's something I feel like I want to get better at when I'm on the go because
Yeah. So
it just feels stressful.
I have two very different thoughts on that I think both have some value to. And I always remember what a suggestion one of my teachers gave to their clients. They're like, if you're going to be going through the drive-through at McDonald's or Burger King and getting a burger, sit in the parking lot for a minute and just look at the burger before you eat it. Like, really get your mind and your body ready to eat it ahead of time. And because if you're driving and you got to keep driving, just take a breath for a minute and then start driving again and eating. Like, give yourself a minute. It doesn't have to be long. Just kind of mentally prepare yourself. And I think that's definitely one thing you can do because like looking and smelling your food before you eat it, I think really can get the digestion going. But on the other end, a lot about mindful eating is preparing the mental state to be in a positive state. So when you're taking food into your body, you're taking it's a your mentality is taking good things into your body rather than, oh, I'm all stressed, I don't have time to eat, I gotta do this real fast, blah 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 blah. You got all these voices going. So getting yourself into a positive mental state, I think, is kind of the first step for when it comes to that kind of mindful eating. And if you are in a hurry but with a group of people and you're having fun and it's a great day and you're excited, you may not need that same kind of mental preparation because you're already taking good positive vibes into your body. So
Right.
starting to take good positive foods into your body can also be along the same lines.
Yeah, I
So it's
agree.
a completely different kind of mental preparation for eating because you're already prepared to take goodness into your body.
Yeah. And I think, you know, when we talk about getting prepared the night before, you know, and then sort of doing your daily prep for the day,
Mm-hmm.
I find if I don't have a small period of meditation time in the morning that my it affects my stress level like all through the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to feel hurried. And I think sometimes it's just sort of like an automatic pilot thing because we are on the go so much, especially in this culture. We're
Mm-hmm.
a culture of go, go, go. And I started having to question myself. I would say something like, you know, here I'm in a rush and I'm trying to like shove this food down my mouth and I'm rushing here. And I would have to ask myself, like, really, are you really that much in a rush? Don't
Mm-hmm.
have 10 minutes to stop and eat? And if you don't, then you need to restructure yourself here because,
Yep.
you know, I don't know about eating while driving. For me has become something that I'm kind of like, I'm becoming really against that because I just have such a bad experience with it. But you drive a lot, so how do you
I
manage that?
do drive a lot. I think one of the main ways I utilize food while I'm driving is this way I'm going to say this sounds a little bit weird, but I use food while I'm driving to alter my blood flow. Because when when you sit for long periods of time, your blood becomes pretty stagnant. It sits in the back of your legs, and it's just generally not moving. As a result, you can start to feel mentally fatigued. And if
Mm.
you are driving for long periods of time, keeping focus, especially at nighttime, is very important. And
Ooh, yeah.
when you are eating food, that encourages a change in the way your blood is directed through your body, and it will shift and move the blood more to your digestive system. So
Very interesting.
by doing that, you're also like, I don't think about this when I'm doing it, but I know that I use food to encourage more mental stability while I'm driving, because
Yeah, I
getting
mean,
that
I can see that.
change in blood flow for long periods of time, um, it can be really beneficial in keeping you focused. Now, generally, eating and learning at the same time is not really something you do, because again, the blood's going to more to your digestive system rather than your mental faculties. But it's different than it just pooling in one spot. Just getting that circulation going,
Mhm.
I think, can just be that start as a benefit, but also making sure you stop and get up and move around. Um, and when you're driving, of course, to do that. But I will eat while I'm driving. And usually when I'm doing that, it's because of it's either late at night and I'm trying to stay focused, or I'm doing very long distance of driving in a very short time. But even when I am doing long distance driving and I try to stop and have like a meal, so to say, I try to like focus on stopping driving for a time, whether
Right.
that be for food or to move around or something, to again keep my mental state focused.
So when you're taking a long trip, you know, and you have a lot of driving to do,
Hmm.
what is your experience? And I mean, this is also geographic, so this is pretty vague.
Of course.
What is your experience with being able to find clean food when you're basically on the highway? For me, I had to start stopping at grocery stores.
Yeah, I do like to stop at grocery stores. That is something that I will do. But again, that's not always a possibility.
Right.
I try to always have foods with me that don't need refrigeration. So because I am traveling right now, I have two grocery bags with me. Um, one of them basically has bottles of water and um, like hydration tabs and things like that to add to water. Then the other bag has my new favorite thing, which are nut butter bars. It's
Oh,
basically there's some that are like sunflowers or cashew butter, that sort of thing, with more nuts in them to like solidify them, and then they have a little bit of chocolate on them or coconut on them, and I really like them. They're great. It's kind of like almost like a fudge that's way less sweet.
hmm.
So I have those, and then some crackers, apples, and peanut butter, and things that like I feel good about eating for snacks, so that when I really do need something quick and I can't find anything that I'm feeling good about eating at the time, that I'll do that. Um, but I do not always eat clean when I am traveling. Usually, when I get to a location, I will focus on clean eating again, or more clean eating, I should say, because right now I'm in Maine, and their organic stores just don't exist here. There's one Whole Foods in the entire state.
Hmm.
Um, So, and that's 2 hours away from where I am right now. So these things just don't exist in the state of Maine. You cannot go out to eat in central or northern Maine at all to get clean food. Um,
So that would
so
be another
I
point of like knowing where you're at geographically and what's available.
Right. But because I have the capability of picking my battles, I do that. So if I can go to a place and I will like to eat, I could say, oh, I will get the salad because it's more important for me to have fruits and vegetables than it is for me to get um, meat that's not treated well or that's potentially full of hormones. So
Right.
I can pick my battles. Even if I'm not getting something that's organic, I can get something that I feel is better than other alternatives. And that's really what I do when I'm traveling. um, so if I am on the road for 2 days or something right in a row and I don't really have time to go grocery shopping and I'm in an area that doesn't have grocery stores where I'd feel good about getting foods, I will pick my battles at the convenience stores or the gas station, so to say. And yesterday I was at a gas station that actually had like they had sandwich options with local bread, cage-free eggs, and turkey sausage. And I'm like, yeah, this is a better battle. I will pick this one. This is a better choice. And I think one of the good things about a lot of those places, and this is something that's kind of easy to forget because we're so used to like going and buying our organic vegetables and things like that. A lot of like more conventional kinds of places, they will add as many vegetables as you want with no extra charge.
Mm,
So that's it's very easy for you and I to forget that kind of thing. But like I'm paying extra for like the cage-free eggs and the turkey sausage, but I can get 3 servings of lettuce, I can get onions and tomatoes and pickles. I can get all of these vegetables with no extra charge.
yeah,
So
that's great. That's a really good point.
even though they're not organic, they're vegetables. And again, picking battles when traveling, I think, is really the important part. Because especially when you're traveling, it's very easy to eat much heavier food for the average person, lots of pastas and meats and cheeses. So having those opportunities to like load on free veggies at a gas station, yeah, I'm all for it. Um, yeah. So I know you don't have that opportunity to pick your battles. You have to, or you have a whole new battle.
Right. Yeah. It definitely makes it a extra challenge, but it does open up my it does open up my knowledge about certain areas and what is around. So it's been very interesting. I've actually found a couple little local small farmers, that have some nice stands. I mean, this is a good time of the year for that, like you were
Yep.
saying. So it also really depends on the time of year too. I mean, if I'm on the go and traveling in the winter as opposed to here at the beginning of summer, it's a completely different experience. I can
Yep.
have a watermelon right now with me, and I can pretty easily cut it in half and use a spoon and dig it out and eat it. And it doesn't need any refrigeration or anything like that. But that's
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily available to me in the peak
Year
of
round.
winter. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that's another thing too is sometimes we get caught in a grind and things, we're kind of doing the same thing repetitively. And
Mm-hmm.
so not being able to eat out has actually made me pay more attention to my environment, where I'm at, what I'm doing, what time of year it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a challenge, but I appreciate it because I also get some rewards in that.
So every winter, I attend an event in February. That is a weekend of basically, I call it marathon dancing because it really is marathon dancing. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of physical activity, very little sleep, and it's in an area where there's not really good food options at all. And it's in the winter.
Right.
So, and just happened, it's during February, and this past February was the month that I was vegan. So this year, every time I go to this event, because there really isn't time to even go out to eat when there is an okay food option,
Mm.
there's not time. So I have to bring all of my food with me, and I also don't have refrigeration. So no refrigeration, have to bring all food with me, and I was being vegan. So it's a challenge and lots of exercise, so I need higher protein intake. So I was able to bring lots of fruits, and because it was the winter, I could leave things in my car for a slight refrigeration. Then I was able to make protein shakes with the pea protein powder that I have mentioned before. I'm trying to remember the brand, but it's not coming to me right now.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
And some. So having those, and then
Not used to hearing phones ring. So Jillian is very much on the go, as we can all tell.
Annabelle, have you not been able to hear me?
Not particularly.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Lovely, lovely. Okay. I could still hear you, so I thought you were talking to me.
Yeah, I was just
Uh,
filling it in basically with nothing.
So what I was saying was that I had fruits, I had protein shakes. I was also able to spiralize zucchini and put that together because zucchini was a great option because I didn't need to refrigerate it ahead of time. I could spiralize just what I wanted to eat at the time. And I really didn't need to cook it. It was delicious, just raw. And then I was able to bring some garlic cashew cream sauce that I had made, and that was a great source of protein and fats to put onto the zucchini. And having fruits and nuts and seed bars, like none of these things I needed to refrigerate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's totally doable. And if you are eating eating animal proteins. One of the things that I also was doing was previous years I would bring pouches or cans of tuna fish, and I would have sprouts that I would be freshly sprouting while I traveled in the winter. So like those were some options that I had that I mixed in with things. And I actually that's one thing that I really like is the ability to sprout while you're traveling.
Oh
It
yes, especially
it
like
takes some
hikers do that.
effort. Yeah, it takes some effort to like do it, but it's totally doable and it's easy and it's a great option. And if you have a sprouting bag, like you mentioned hikers doing it. So if they make these burlap bags that are specifically for sprouting. All you have to do is dip it in the water, kind of rustle your beans or seeds around in there and take it out and let it hang. And if you're hiking, just let it hang from your pack. You get 6 hours later, you do it again. Just put them into a little bit of water and shake them off, and then hike for 6 more hours. You do this for a few days, and then you got sprouts right in your bag right there. So very little effort and high reward because you basically have fresh grown food, live food that you've grown while you're hiking and on the trail. So that can be a great option. And you can also do that like in your car during maybe like spring and fall. I don't know that I would do it in the summer or the winter because of the temperature intensities. But yeah, I think those can be really good options. I would do things like peas and lentils and things like that. I think it'd be harder to do seeds that way,
Right.
just because they're smaller. but you can get jars that you could leave in your car in the spring or the fall that you could sprout those smaller seeds in while you're traveling.
Absolutely.
So
I was reading a hiking magazine, and they get it wet and then they just tie it onto the back of their sack
yep,
while they're hiking. So perfect, because yeah, like you said, I mean, it's so nutrient dense.
yep,
Doing something like pea shoots or something like that
yep.
wouldn't be too hard.
No, it's really easy. You just have to make sure it doesn't stay too wet. It has to be hanging. It can't be like sitting in a jar because they have to get that airflow.
Right. Yeah, you don't
Um,
want them to get, stagnant and then get
yep,
bacteria.
yep. But after once or twice of doing it, it's really hard to screw it up because it's really easy to do. You only screw it up if you really screw it up.
Yeah. Yeah, and you'll know. I mean, you can take one smell pretty much and be able to tell, I would think, but I have a very sensitive nose, and I can kind of
I do
tell,
as well,
when
yeah.
it's not great. But that brought up an interesting point, and it
Yeah.
just brought up something interesting for me, was when I'm on the go also. I mean, I know we're talking about eating on the go.
Yep.
When I'm thinking about being on the go, I'm also thinking about the weather for the day. And so
Mm.
if it's winter or if it's summer type thing, because I'm trying to make sure that it's so weird to hear a phone ringing. It's like, it just doesn't happen very much these days. But I try to make sure that I have stuff that's going to help me stay acclimated to the temperatures. So if it's cold outside and I'm going to be on the go for a while, I tend to eat higher acidic foods, keeping my body temperature elevated. And then if I'm, in the summer, I'm trying to make sure that the foods that I have are incredibly hydrating, and that I have enough sodium if I'm going to be sweating, and that it
Mhm.
also helps provide a way for my body to cool down, like cucumbers or something like that. So for me anyway, because I have had such a difficult time with body temperature regulation, that's another part of what I have to focus on when I'm on the go. I know you've experienced this with the warmer weather happening, that it's just really difficult, especially, if you're spending a whole day sort of outside. I think it's great, throwing some snacks in and making sure you have stuff and everything, but I most need help with modulating the body temperature, and I have to make sure to keep that as a factor. Do you do
Yeah.
that?
I mean, for me, lots of when it's hot, really staying hydrated for me, because I sweat pretty easily and I get dehydrated very quickly.
Right.
I could definitely do better at remembering to eat hydrating foods, but I mean, the main hydrating foods probably that we think of are like apples and peaches and pears, so things in that family. And then again, cucumbers and watermelons and all the other melons. I am in debate whether I am allergic to many melons, so that really knocks out consistently eating honeydew, cantaloupe, watermelons, and cucumbers as well.
Right.
But one thing that I will definitely enjoy when it comes in a month or so is tomato season, because I find fresh
Mm,
tomatoes to be wonderfully hydrating. Um, but that's what apples tend to be my fruit of choice because they're very easy to transport. They really don't require refrigeration, and they are very hydrating. But temperature wise in the winter, that's kind of the other end of the spectrum. And I remember this past winter, you once were at my place, and without even asking, I gave you the cayenne to put on your food because I was like, Annabelle wants more cayenne. I know, I can tell. Because I think that's one tool that I think both you and I use is adding spicy foods to our bodies in the winter to really keep us warm and nourished and flexible and moving, and that whole heating concept, that stimulating heating concept in the winter, I think is one that you and I both do a pretty good job at maintaining through our foods. And I think along that same line, remembering that fermented foods do the same kind of thing to our body. And it's easy to forget that, but in the winter, really fermented foods, they help to stimulate our body, but also help keep us clean and detoxifying. And a lot of fermented foods are pretty transportable. Like they're not like ideal if you don't have great refrigeration, but like probiotic yogurts can be easily brought around, like individual cups, small packages of kimchi and sauerkraut and things like that. And fermented vegetables, like when you're first fermenting them, you don't want them to be in the refrigerator. You need them to not be refrigerated. So
Right.
they're okay if they're not refrigerated for a day. So having those can be really great, especially in the winter when you're traveling somewhere, I think. Yeah.
I totally agree. And it's interesting you said the spices, because even when I am on the go and I do eat out, which is rare because there's only a few places I can do that,
Mm-hmm.
I have had to learn to bring my own spices, and I put them in my purse. And
I bring my own salts with me.
yeah, because the
That's the
quality
one
of
I do.
salt is very difficult. That's a great idea.
Yep.
I'm very particular. I don't eat much salt, but I'm very particular about the salt that I particular go to a restaurant. It's just, I try to stay far, far away from refined sea salt or refined table salt. So also, I bring my own sweetener. I'll bring my own honey or something along those lines if I'm gonna end up having tea or something like that. But it really just, it just depends on what you've got going through the day, and how busy you're gonna be. And for me, it's definitely, when you're talking about the seasons, I mean, winter is the hardest season for me, whereas summer, I think, is the harder one for you. So it's you could what would be, I almost have to find not shortcuts, but I have to find some particular way to deal with that. And there's
You have to
also
have
wonderful,
a toolbox.
right. There's also wonderful things that can be used in the summer that are not just food, like making peppermint tea to take along with you to help keep your body temperature regulated. So
Yeah, I
there's
think
really
peppermint is really the main one that people use.
Yeah.
It is a cooling diaphoretic, and there are very few of those out there. So most diaphoretic herbs, so a diaphoretic is something that stimulates sweating in the body, and sweating is intended to cool our body down. So most diaphoretics heat our body up so that we sweat, and then the sweating itself cools our body down, versus peppermint works slightly differently, and it will cool the body down itself and stimulate sweating at the same time. So it's a very rare kind of energetic quality to it. But then things like peppermint and lemon balm and other things that are in that family, catnip as well, those are all also diaphoretics, but they have different temperature levels. So really finding kind of the one that's for you. Like peppermint for me is too cooling. Spearmint works much better for me. I also really like lemon balm, and they're slightly a more neutral kind of diaphoretic herb. So that way I don't get too cold or too hot through the process. But yeah, the sweating possibility is also really important for temperature regulation on that end.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's just, it's interesting because these are really things I didn't think about before. And, eating out or eating on the go is much different for me these days. I've told you before that I've sat at a light and looked at all the fast food places I used to go to eat. And so I just didn't have any of this skill or knowledge whenever I first started trying to change my food habits and the types of foods I was eating. And for me, being on the go was always the biggest struggle. And I would find that that's whenever I would backslide. You know, like I would make
Mm-hmm.
really good progress of like getting particular food out of my diet or what have you. And I would do fine, you know, and then I would leave my house and I would not have prepared well for the day. And I would just go to something, you know, and be like, oh, well, it's just this one particular instance. But then I would find for me, that would just be a backslide. And it would almost be like a backdoor of getting that food getting back into my life. Um, so,
And I have a question for you, Annabelle. And this is definitely going to be different for every person, but I know you do this. So I wanted to kind of hear a little bit more about how you do this. So if you know you're going to be going for a whole day the following day, how much of your food preparation do you do the night before versus that morning? And are there certain things you consistently do the night before or consistently do in the morning that you feel works better to do at that time of the day?
so good question. I try to do the bulk of it. I would say probably 80% at night, the night
Hmm.
before. And the things I do focus on the night before is if I'm going to take a cooler and have something refrigerated, I
Yep.
like to get it made the night before so it has extra refrigeration. And I like to make sure I make my infusions, teas, stuff like that, get all that
Mm-hmm.
ready at night to infuse overnight, and then I strain those off in the morning. I don't tend to make smoothies the night before. I
Yep.
tend to make those, you know, first thing as I'm going, but I do make sure that they're cool enough if they need to be by making sure if I have to cut up some banana and put it in the freezer, I do that the night before. But I try to get everything as much as possible ready the night before because it just ends up being a little bit too overwhelming for me trying to get out the door. If I've got, you know, if I feel like I'm buried in trying to get my food out the door. And it also makes me feel a little agitated about eating. Like it makes my relationship with food not positive.
Mm.
If I'm feeling rushed and I have all this stuff to do in the morning before I get out the door, I'm kind of like, you know, I'm irritable feeling. And so I feel like I lose touch with the gratitude that I have this amazing nutrition I'm taking along with me. So now salads, though, what I'll do if I'm going to take a salad, which I do a lot, is
Yep.
I chop all the vegetables and such up and I put it in a separate container and I soak my greens usually overnight. And then I have a container for my greens, you know, and I do it like that because it just gets if I try to do the greens the night before, I find they get wilty and soggy
Yep.
by the time I'm going to go eat them the next, probably later, you know, evening time, because I don't tend to eat much in the way of vegetables during the day. Sometimes I do, but so pretty much that's what I do. But you definitely have a lot of that because a lot of times you're going away for a whole long day or a couple of days for a marathon. So do you have particular things that you do?
I don't. And I think it really changes like every time I travel because I'm not always doing the same things. So what I'm bringing for food, I really change depending on what I'm going to be doing. Um,
Right,
because like if I'm going to be camping and around a fire pit or hiking, I'm going to get really dehydrated.
right.
Versus if I'm just doing lots of driving and I'm standing and talking to someone while I'm vending for the dancing herbalist or one thing or another, um, I might not need that same kind of hydration support, but I might just need, I might actually need more circulatory support because I'm standing in one spot all day. I might need something a little more spicy to keep my circulation going. Um, or just because of the slight monotony of it, caffeine and sugar of some sort. I don't do great with caffeine, but sometimes I will use it. I primarily use it medicinally rather than as a casual thing, like most people do.
Right.
Um, so really what I'm doing will change what I'm doing for food prep. But I completely agree about not doing smoothies until the morning. And when you said that, I was like, yeah, I'm totally on board with that. But I'm wondering about teas though, because so there's a few different ways to do teas, and you mentioned doing them at night. If I'm doing a cold infusion, so not using any heat in my herbs, and there's instructions in our blog, in the Dancing Herbals blog, how to do cold infusion. Um, that I'll let sit overnight. But if I'm doing a hot infusion, I'd prefer to do that in the morning because I think the cooling process and then letting it sit for 12 hours or so before starting to drink it, I think that can actually reduce some of the medicinal qualities of it. Now, if it's just a beverage tea, that's completely different.
Mhm.
But if it's more of a medicinal tea, unless if you're doing a hot infusion and then letting it sit for a while, you may lose some of the medicinal value. But a cold infusion might
Right.
be another option instead. And the nice thing about cold infusions, which you can also do as like a sun tea, that is something you can start in your car in the morning. And if you have like 2 jars or so, just start one in the morning and start one at night, and then you have constant fresh tea going all day long brewing in your car, and you don't need to do it doesn't need to be hot because a cold infusion, it just takes time to infuse the water with the herbs. It's not about the heat content. So that's definitely a way you can get nice, flavorful tea while you're on the go, is doing cold infusions.
Yeah. That's a great idea. I love that. I tend to do mostly, cold infusions, but it just depends, like you said, on what I'm actually making, what,
Yep.
variety of herbs I'm using, because sometimes I have to cook them. But that also goes into the seasonal stuff for
Hmm.
me. I tend to, when it's cooler out, I like to do a warm infusion in the morning.
Hmm.
Um, and then I like to just have something with me, through the day that I did a cooler infusion overnight. But I like starting my day with something nice and warm,
Hmm.
and if I can warm up something somewhere, I will. But I
Yep.
love the idea about starting one, in the morning to have later on in the day. That's a phenomenal idea that really honestly has not crossed my mind.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're not going to drink it until later in the day, make your hot infusion and your cold infusion both in the morning. Drink your hot infusion right away and just let your cold infusion steep for hours and then drink it later. Just do it all at
Right,
once. And one
right.
thing it's easy for you and I to forget about this. A lot of gas stations have hot water. So
Mm,
if you have your herbs with you and a mug or a jar or however, you can really just go get hot water from a tap.
right.
Now, it's not the best quality water, but again, pick your battles.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
you
very
need
much
that
so. That's
plantain
that's
tea,
a
just
great
pick your plantain on the side of the road and go into the gas station and get hot water.
right, absolutely. It's a great idea. I love that. And now it's almost like you've opened up a new world for me in travel with tea. Because I do use herbs medicinally and regularly. So I really love that idea. But I guess so. If you were to do an infusion, which would actually be a decoction of something that had roots or what have you, um, there's not really a way that you can let that sit in cool water. It definitely needs to be warmed up a little bit first, and then it
So
can
let
kind
me
of,
tell you some awesome things.
yeah,
So when you take the Dancing Herbalist Herbal Product Preparation Module 1, you'll learn way more details about this. about hot infusion, cold infusions, decoctions, and all the differences between those, what herbs work best in each one, what parts of the plants. So much detail goes into this. But one of the benefits of a cold infusion is that you can mix all the different parts of a plant together. So if you have a blend, you don't have to worry about processing your flowers, your leaves, your roots, your seeds all separately, because they're all going to break down at a similar rate with a cold infusion.
Interesting.
And different herbs are going to be different, but cinnamon is a great example because, sorry, not cinnamon, marshmallow. When you make a hot infusion of marshmallow, so marshmallow is a root. So you don't really you can make a hot infusion, you can make a decoction, or you can make a cold infusion. Just because it's a root, one would assume you should make a decoction.
Right.
When you do that with marshmallow, you get a sticky, gooey mess.
Mm.
But if you make a cold infusion, you get all the medicinal benefits you want without the sticky, gooey mess, because you're just getting the medicinal parts out without all of those extra polysaccharides.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought that, doing a cold infusion would not work with roots. So that's so great to know.
Yeah, I mean, you can use roots and barks. Cold. So the thing is, cold infusions need time, lots of time. Like 8 hours is a minimum for a cold infusion generally.
Right. Yeah, I like to do 12 hours is my typical.
That's my ideal as well, is 12 hours. So like if you're doing 16 hours, great, but that's a little overkill for the most part.
Right.
I also agree 12 hours is a really good time for a cold infusion. But if you're using it more for a beverage, you don't need like 12 hours. That's more of a medicinal cold infusion time. 6 to 8 hours for a cold infusion, or 4 to 6 hours for a sun infusion. Like if you put your jar out in the sun so it's a little warm. For beverage teas, that's where you want to be, 4 to 6 or 6 to 8, depending on if you have sun or not. But yeah, there's a lot of different options. But the other thing that came to my mind, kind of moving back away from the herbs, when you mentioned freezing your bananas so your smoothie would stay cooler,
right?
In the morning. Now I usually always use frozen fruits in my smoothies because I like the texture of them. But I would love to consider not blending the bananas and just putting them in basically as ice cubes into a smoothie.
I think that's a great idea.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be a smoothie. You could do the same thing if you have like sliced your strawberries or blueberries and things like that and freeze those and throw the frozen fruit into a tea for your ice cubes.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And that's also a way where the bananas will not oxidize as quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wonderful. I love that.
And you could do this with a lot of fruits. Like so this is another great one for on the go, is making a citrus syrup. So like I have made onion syrups a whole bunch of times. There's instructions in the Dancing Herbalist blog how to make an onion syrup. But you can do a very similar thing with citrus. Now, the downside that you wouldn't use is you do need dry sugar for it. But basically, you slice up your lemon, your lime, your orange, whatever, grapefruit. Get rid of the seeds because you just don't want the seeds in there because they're bitter. After you've made sure they're washed and everything. And in a jar, you layer your citrus and then a layer of sugar, a layer of citrus, layer of sugar. And the dryness of the sugar will pull the juice and the bitter compounds and the sweet compounds and everything out of the fruits. And in the process, the sugar will also start to break down the rinds. So you can also keep the rinds in there. And then you can take teaspoons, tablespoons of this and just mix it in with water as like an electrolyte drink.
Which is, oh, I love that. That's beautifully wonderful. And it's also got that pectin in there too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yep.
superb because I love citrus pectin for the gut. But that's a
Well,
beautiful idea. I wish there
pectin's
was an
mostly in the
alternative
seeds. I
sugar.
suggest taking the seeds out
Yeah.
because the seeds are also kind of bitter. But yeah.
I did
Uh,
actually do orange juice one time and I just put everything in the skin, the peel and the
mhm.
seeds, and it was pretty much horrible.
Yeah, you got to get rid of some of that. Um, yeah, citrus juices can be really mucus producing in the body. So generally, it's like you should eat a small amount of the peel to kind of counteract that, but you definitely don't need to eat the whole peel. Just a little bit, just a little nibble on the peel will counteract
Mm.
that mucilage components. But you know, we've been talking about this for a while now, but I'm really glad we've been doing these wellness watch sessions. Um, I think they're a great way for both you and I to discover new possibilities, and also to share all these possibilities with the people around us. Um, and yeah, I'm really glad they've been going for months now, and that we're going to be able to continue them in for our next season in a few months. Um, but we're at that end of the session today. I want to thank all of our patrons, like, and really seriously, because we had been offering classes, free classes, and this is a much easier, a less time-consuming way for us to share a much broader spectrum of knowledge with the Dancing Herbalist patrons. So I'm really glad that this is something our patrons can support and continue to see the Wellness Watch grow. So if you do want to keep seeing these sessions go and us adding other new possibilities, we have a variety of other completely different discussion classes that Annabelle and I would love to bring to all of you. Do consider joining us on Patreon so that we can continue to bring these to you guys. And if you do have any questions after the end of these sessions, be sure to come over to our Facebook group to ask us those questions over there. We do always look forward to seeing you there. It's nice to see people who want to chat about herbs and wellness in our community.
Very much.
But Annabelle, is there anything else you want to say, men, about eating on the go or for the end of our first season of Wellness Watch?
No, I just want to say thank you to everyone, and it's been an amazing season. I think we've learned so much, and now the second season is we're going to learn even more because we're going to have a little bit of distance there. So I'm really looking forward to it. I love the topics we have selected. I feel like, we're more in the flow of our discussions, and they're always wonderful, and I'm glad we get to share them. I'm glad more people are waking up to taking care of themselves in a more natural method. So
Yes.
I'll just look forward to season 2, and you guys take good care.
Yes. And season 2 will be on the Dancing Herbalist YouTube channel. So it's going to be a little bit different that way. It'll be a little bit more accessible to you. You'll be able to, if you have YouTube Premium, I think that's what it's called right now, you can even download them and listen to them on the go. So that'll be much more convenient for people to access the Dancing Herbalist Wellness Watch. But be sure to come and find us on YouTube. You do need to use the search bar and search the Dancing Herbalist right now. We are still a very small YouTube channel, but once we get larger, you'll be able to actually find it by using the search bar on Google. But right now you do need to search on YouTube itself to find the Dancing Herbalist. But you can also follow our link that's at thedancingherbalist.com to find our channel as well. But I look forward to seeing all of you on our YouTube channel and also to seeing you at other classes that we continue to host through Learn It Live because we'll still have other classes on here, just Wellness Watch won't be on here. But thank you all so much. Thank you as well, Annabelle, for joining me for these sessions. I always appreciate hearing your thoughts and experiences and opinions. And thank you so much, everyone. I hope you all have a great day.
Thanks for having me. You guys take care. Thanks.
Bye-bye.